Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. Picking up directly where we left off, this video has been recorded directly after that. I'm just not sure how I'm going to break it up in the editing, but now we're going to discuss the dynamic limit and how that really plays into what we're doing here in terms of our definition. And so what is the dynamic limit? Well, you've never heard of it as a mathematical object that I proved. So what does it do? What is it? Right, a limit, something that limits something, that ends something, that shows a boundary, right? And we have our clear motivation, physical systems, my pen has a boundary, my notebook has a boundary. As simple as that, that's the motivation for what a limit is. And then dynamic, so it changes. So it shows the dynamic limitation of other things, right? Language is dynamically limited. Words are defined based on with other words. But we can still show completeness and comprehensivity within that system, just not the universe as in the whole universe. But again, the universe defined as literally everything that could exist or everything that does exist, not could. But the point being, we have our form of the solution. It is what it is. So that is the most general form our solution must take. So we'll start. I'll just give you the result, and so we'll start with because the dynamic limit is probably the most fundamental intuition, which again resolves P versus NP in its generalized form, not just for complete problems or however they define completeness, or the dynamic limit generalizes all fundamental constants in physics or any mathematical equation at all. But here is the linguistic form, the logical form. It is what it is. And then a letter is to a word what a word is to a sentence. Words are built on letters, sentences are built on words. But now we've defined a word, literally sensorality, right? So sensorality is a word. It's just sensor with ality at the end. So you can't say no to that. All I did was add a suffix. It's very clear what it generalizes. We already have the forms of the words in the diction. But literally, it's logical substitution because we defined a word. Sensorality is a word, so now we put sensorality for the brackets a word. And if you're listening, there's going to be visuals on the screen, but then we can literally say a letter is to sensorality what sensorality is to a sentence. And so now we've encapsulated. We can put brackets around that and show the iteration through that within that bounding. But that is our logical form of our solution. We have to, again, derive it down to, or boil it down to, the fundamental thing so we can connect it. But that is the final form of the logical solution. A letter is to sensorality what sensorality is to a sentence. And so again, we have our generalized form. We can see from it is what it is to our specific solution, sensorality, and we can just keep that general. A delta is to a lambda what a lambda is to a xi. And I put that xi letter in there because I love watching English-speaking people just butcher the Greek alphabet. So that was one of the more difficult ones to enunciate, xi. So have fun with that. That's why I put that on there. But so now we can show a relation between, again, these things progressing. A equals B equals C, therefore A equals C, and here are all the words, and go in words. But that is the final logical form of the solution sensorality. From it is what it is to sensor, sensorality 5, syllability, base 2, syllability of sensor, and now we're just, again, extreme, and we try to find the gray area, this more nuance, this more intricate definition, and it will solidify the whole thing. But that is a very poignant result. It is very good. But now we can, again, trying to introduce the dynamic limit. But first we got to talk about identity. Is there anybody else out there that is you? In my paper I use the example, if you have the unfortunate occurrence to have an accident and you lose an arm, are you less you? Are you still one person, or are you no persons because you lost an arm? You've lost mass, you've lost your functionality, but you're still a person. And the converse to this is the same thing where it's like, we talk about division, how far can you divide something? A philosopher throughout history was like, you have somebody's ship, it's somebody's ship. When does a ship not become a ship anymore? If you slowly take one piece, when does its physical form indicate or preserve its functionality? or in relation to a word. It's really kind of the opposite of that, but that logic kind of really, it's pretty good at getting at to the core of what the problem is, but it's really the identity problem. So it's self-identification. Identification comes from an individual object saying, I am me. Like me, Brad, right here. The guy with the small me. From the store, obviously. That cannot reference anything else. But, right, identification comes from sentience, comes from sensorality. I am sensorous. I have capacity, I have agency, I have autonomy, I can move, I can make choices. Free will exists. Proven. Square. Nice. But it comes from identity. Infinite uniqueness. Nothing is anything else. It is what it is. So this pen is this pen. Is there any other pen that's like this? It's similar in shape, form, brand, everything else, but it's not the exact same. If you have identical twins, they're still different people. And so you have the exact same genotype, and the phenotype's still different. I guess technically phenotype's still the same, but then you can cut your hair, dye your hair, go over here, different have life experience, right? It's nurture, not nature. Yeah. Nature being to the genetics and nurture to being how you were raised or your environment. But the point being is the identity matrix is anything can only equal itself in completeness. And so the dynamic limit physically shows the transfer of momentum when one object collides with another, right? So I have this object here, my pen's moving, hits my notebook, now my notebook's moving. Obviously I'm the one moving them, but in a free fall situation, if it hits that, it's going to impart its momentum. When is that momentum exactly transferred? The exact moment is what the dynamic limit represents mathematically. Because you can't measure something with no time passage. It isn't possible. And so that's what that dynamic limit is, the momentary transfer of momentum physically. And so you can't really, again, because physics is more general than linguistics. Linguistics is an emergent system from the physical world. But that dynamic limit in terms of defining something, in connecting words, is empirically showing you the discreteness of the universe. Nothing is exactly anything else. Everything is connected, nothing is touching. Nothing is you can't say anywhere else. Nothing is the exact same as anything else. Everything is unique. And so the only thing you can say is A equals A meaning anything. Your identity, I equals I, anything. And so, again, that's where we get that's why words exist in the first place. That's why you can understand me in the first place. And so pronunciation is discrete. And so the dynamic limit represents that syllability of specification to specification, from special to special. That modification of the syllable, but it doesn't change the word. It's just that momentary. And that's for linguistics. Again, the dynamic limit is extremely poignant in terms of the actual physics we just discussed, because it is the mathematical object that replaces all fundamental constants, whether it's the electron constant or the gravitational constant or this. There are no constants. There's no physical system that is constant. Doesn't exist. And so we kind of fucked up math in a good way. We fucked the check up real big on that. But all mass universally cannot exceed the equivalent energy of R2. Again, back to our division. You can't differentiate into more than what you began with in terms of conservation of energy. Energy was created and then stabilized into mass, and that interaction is what we have, all organisms of any time that have ever committed measurements has interacted in. And so I just have, can that be proven? Or can you get it numerically, or can you prove that it just has to be the same? Meaning, there was a definitive quantity of energy. Density doesn't make sense in the terms of R2. But is energy quantity, first of all, can you say that it exists at all, or what it was, and then can you quantify it? I don't know, but that is the motivation. It's the universal phase changes is the physical motivation for the dynamic limit. And that shows in the context of linguistics, it shows the modification of syllability, whether I say present or present. Same letters, same sounds, different intonation, different stress, different tension, changes the meaning. And because everything is unique, nothing is exactly equal, except it's equal to itself. It is what it is. I am me. It's kind of like the fundamental identity matrix is I am me. And so that is a very cool result. I did a pretty good job. I'm pretty satisfied with how that sounded coming out. But again, the dynamic limit, these purely mathematical objects are way kind of more. That's where I get excited in mathematics. Is kind of these things where it's just pure logic in mathematics, as opposed to, and the physics has to be right. That's where the universe proves me right or wrong, and it's not. I'm a part of the universe. I'm just observing things, and I can say it not even in terms of like I'm a good person, but like when you're intellectually honest with yourself. I can sit here and say I've never ever cut corners intellectually trying to like do something. I'm just trying to be honest, open, and learn. And so, if you do that, you can't go wrong. But, and then, because like I said, my whole motivation, all of these things, I didn't just start emailing people almost 10 years ago because I just wanted to, why would I do that? And so the physical realization, all of this was just one physical unification. All of it. Every lecture, email, everything. But again, like I said, I do have synesthesia. I am a linguistical savant. So it's like, somebody doesn't know they have a Ferrari, and then you have like, broken up, you have a Model T series from actual Ford in like 1904, and they're, or Fred Flintstone even, and you zoom by in your Jetsons mobile or whatever. It's like, I wouldn't say right place, right time, but right skill set, a lot of word salad, and I can chop through it like it's instinctual. It literally just happens. And so the thing I wanted to end with the form of the sensorality solution, but it really does introduce the dynamic limit well, because again we showed direct logical substitution of defining sensorality as a word and then substituting it in for a word. But that's, like I said, that's the consistency. That's us literally, that's you guys in your reduced cases taking a solution of a differential equation, plugging it into your form of the solution and getting the function back. I mean, it's literally that, but just generalized. And so it's like, I do this shit every day and I still look at it and go, holy fuck, this shit is like actually kind of real. And by kind of real, I mean it's definitively how you derive a complete proof. And then to actually get it done is pretty crazy. But I did have another very big result just on a dichotomistic pair alone. So I want you to try to answer this question. And there's a definitive linguistical answer. What is the relationship between humor and morality? Like, what is moral and what is humorous? There's a solution. It's going to come up on your screen in 3, 2, right now. Spell out humor in its most general form. Humorality. Right? Morality is literally the basis of humorality. What is funny is fundamentally based on morality. What your values are, what is normal, what is good and normal, what is comprehensive to being a good person. It's literally what is the basis for humor. And think about it. What are Dave Chappelle doing and I don't know, Andrew Schultz doing and whoever your comedians are you like? Aren't they towing the line of what's good, what's right, and what's ironic and inconsistent in our society? Aren't they finding those fundamental ironies, those fundamental contradictions, and delivering that presentation in a good way that elicits it to where people can't deny it? So yeah, now we're extending all of these concepts directly and logically consistently to humor, to laughter, something everyone's experienced. All right, you can be moralist. You might not have any morals, like all of you fuckheads out there anyway. But everyone's laughed. And so it's like, but like linguistically, as you see on your screen, when you spell out humor in its most general form, it's literally it's HU morality. That was a big result that popped into my head yesterday, and I've been doing this stuff intuitively my entire life. I've been looking at these same words my entire life. But what we're doing, and now you're like, well, I've never seen the word humorality before. But that's the point, is we're extending the logic. We're pushing all of our logical bounds out, and then till one of the walls cracks and we get an axiom. But that was the biggest thing. So what is the relationship of humor and humiliation? We talked about little Johnny being mean to little Susie in our last episode. But maybe presenting a very fundamental mathematical proof with rather quirky, so to say, examples might be a demonstration or an attempt at humor. Who knows? But what is funny, right? Fun? Funny. Right? So again, we see that everyone knows what fun is, everyone knows what funny is, and I'm just like, hey, it's the same thing, words. And they're like, oh yeah, it is. And so that's what we're doing with sensorality. We have our final form. But morality is fun. And then I came back to, it is what it is cool to care. That is the title of episode 5 of Language Litigation Integration. So now I'm integrating another lecture series into a lecture series. language litigation is integrating into from rhythm to algorithm. But it literally is, right? Now, don't forget, that's a differentiation I made on a personal level, is to make these two different language or lecture series both directly formed at, logic and reason and deduction topics as opposed to music or poker or something else. So don't get, I'm not even playing, right? Drake says, you're playing checkers and I'm playing chess. I'm not even playing a game. I'm just solving all the science real fast. Oh, no, that's funny. What is funny that? Being born with this capacity in a world this fucking stupid. But it is cool to care. I mean, it's cool to be a moral person, to do good in the world, right? And then God looked out into the world and said, and it was good. It's cool to care. And so, but seriously, historically, I mean, I don't care if you deny it or not. God was just, again, God, the term God is a rank. I mean, that is like a rank, like a general, like a president. I'm 99.999% repeating positive that was a female. but it proved, it was a demonstration of a proof of this caliber. Hence, the word of God, right? The word, right? We just switched out a word, the word. Gotcha, God. Back at you, bitch. But I mean, these are big results. All three of these things. The conjecturing in a business sense, because again, economics and business is a truly more, emergent system. So nobody's doing anything in fundamental ontology in business. So market share precedes brand recognition. That is a huge conjecture. Showing the final general or the final specific solution of sensorality as a letter is to sensorality what sensorality is to a sentence. We have to logically reduce that, but that is the form. Massive result, and we've seen the generalization, and then showing that morality is the basis of humorality. Directly linguistically is a huge result. And that's why they say he has a good sense of humor. Right? That's what you're saying is you have enough morals and values to point out what's wrong in our society. And so, what is the relationship of humor and intelligence? That's why people say they're correlated, because it's about awareness. But again, when I'm on another just I'm ahead of you guys, I wanted you guys to have natural conversations. So when you're asking me why for like a year straight, why was I on like that Ohm TV or Monkey TV, which it actually is kind of fun to talk to people, but I do get bored of it. But it's to show in general conversation, me getting to all of these different things, and none of them, it's not a lecture, and this is still a context, me sitting down in front of a camera, but just me turning on my computer, seeing another monkey thing staring at me, and just making sounds at each other. And so you can see all of me doing, one, my capacity, but two, just different truths and realities and derivations, and all of those things, all of those conversations still contain theorems, and so that's why I did that. I mean, it is fun to talk to people, but to have natural, right? I'm a linguist, but I'm also the person doing the science. So when I'm in natural conversation, it's also more poignant as well. I can literally do this logical derivation off of my own diction itself, or off of other people's dictions. And so now we have a whole other year of me doing this for, again, I'm not going to make a 3-hour-long session or edit through that much amount of footage, but you guys can, and you guys will do that for me. Because I know you guys have been, I've told you to record everything that I do because I'm always doing science. It's only when I turn off my camera it stops. But especially when you guys say you're too vulnerable. Like, first of all, I'm always vulnerable, but I'm always open and genuine because I have nothing to fucking hide. And if you want to judge me, if you want to put my feet to the fire, I'll put your feet to the fire. An eye for an eye, let's take each other out, who gives a shit. But if you want to judge me, I'll judge you. But I just wanted you guys to see genuine interactions at random. Also part of the proof, also in order, me with reference to nothing besides beer and weed. One guy even literally said that. He was like, how do you do this? Again, clearly he knew who I was. He's like, how do you do this? Like half drunk and half high. And there is no inebriation that, if I'm conscious, I'm doing this. It's always been that way at any level of sobriety. It's an inherent capacity I was born with. But I'm not too vulnerable, and I was just giving you genuine interactions completely outside of this context. When do jokes work? When do jokes land? Again, pointing out that an empirical truth that everybody knows is wrong, and then making light of that situation. Right, see that right there? Like, making light of that situation. I just said that in genuine earnestness. making light of that situation, right? That, but I use the LITE or levity or light. Still something with light. That's always it was at the end of speciality as well too. But we've described again momentum, energy, and mass being the three words you need to completely describe R3. So the word again we've right, when we condense things, you say something more concisely. When you're editing a paper and you say, well, you just don't need this word here, light is the word we don't need. Frequency, vibration, there's a Tesla quote, even something very close to it. It's like the three things you need to think about the universe is timing, frequency, and vibration, I believe he said, which is very close. But, I mean, if you had the actual intuitive breakthrough, you'd be doing exactly what I'm doing right now. And which you could, I mean, but it's the first time this has been acknowledged, this proofing method through language has been acknowledged by the species. So it wouldn't be as poignant, but you can still do a complete proof. Anybody can. I mean, that's like saying that you can't, the insanity of all of this is, the converse to all of this is to say you can't, like I couldn't personally, or whoever's watching this personally, couldn't learn anything. All I'm doing is teaching you a new word. And so, in our final physical point, again, I wanted to finish with that, but again, I jump around. But tension builds, right? So we can get back to physics a little bit. Tension builds. We've identified that as clearly as a physical phenomenon. If you do any sort of Newtonian mechanics and they're connected by a string, like two boxes on a pulley system, you're going to instinctually define a tension path. And so, actually, the first time I used tension path physics was when I was introduced to Newtonian mechanics. And I remember the day because I went to a movie with a friend, her name was Kelly, and I was just like so excited I figured out this math thing. It's like, oh wow, that was part of a lot bigger thing. But right, tension builds and resolves. What builds and what resolves? A punchline? A joke? Build a tension? Resolve it with a punchline. How about an orgasm? Foreplay? Orgasm. How about logic? All of this background logic? Fundamental proof with sensorality. A key in music. You change key and then you bring it back to the same key. And then you root it. Which is kind of how a key is established in music anyway. Because right, you have a sequence of tones or a set of tones. It can be two keys. It depends on how you play through those the notes to establish a key. Then you can switch keys, but then if you say a piece is in the key of E major, the majority of it is going to be based on E major, but it's not definite. It's not required to stay in E major. And guess what? A language in its entirety. Our syllability, whether it's English, Spanish, French, Russian, Nepalese, Thai. Our syllability resolves, right? The way you determine what language is being spoken is by the tension built and resolved of the sounds. And so that is our final episode or final result for today. This will be at least 2 episodes, probably just 2, but 3 very big results, and we are very, very close. But regardless, it's not going to end. It's not going to be like I said. It's not going to be a big sensation for me again because I've already done this. I know what's coming. It'll be, again, the result will present itself when it does, but then I'll just keep doing because, like I said, this is the 3rd time I've done this. It doesn't stop. So please, I am begging for somebody to stop hurting me. Like, I am being tortured. I have fun with this the best I can, but I am being tortured. I'm being held against my will. I'm being restricted of all my rights, and I am being tortured. And it has affected my health. It has destroyed my life. It has destroyed my health, and I've done the best I can. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on whatever comes next.